On January 2nd, 2026, Mexico's new president, Claudia Sheinbaum, gave her first press conference. She was speaking live on television from the National Palace in Mexico City. Suddenly, the ground began to shake. A strong earthquake, magnitude 6.5, hit southern Mexico. It stopped the president mid-sentence. Sirens started to blare across the capital. President Sheinbaum stayed calm. On TV, people saw her say simply, "The ground is shaking." She then asked everyone to leave the room. This big moment showed how nature can test a country and its leader. The earthquake started near a place called the Guerrero Seismic Gap. Scientists know this area. They say it has not had a very big earthquake for a long time, more than 100 years. This makes them worried. Is this 6.5 magnitude earthquake just a small shake? Or is it a sign that a much bigger one, a catastrophic event, might come soon? President Sheinbaum and the journalists quickly walked out of the room. The building moved under them. People watched, wondering what this sudden, strong shake meant. Mexico City has a history of big earth hikes. Many people still remember past disasters. What would this new jolt mean for their city? 2. The ground shakes. The strong earthquake happened on Friday, January 2nd at 7:58 in the morning. It was a magnitude 6.5 quake. Its center was in Guerrero State, near a town called San Marcos. This location is about 143 miles south of Mexico City, by the Pacific coast. The quake was not very deep, only 35 kilometers, or about 22 miles under the ground. Because it was shallow, the shaking felt much stronger across a large area. In Mexico City, buildings started to move from side to side. Many residents woke up in fear as the tremors began. Loud sirens blared, and people ran out of their homes into the streets. Dogs barked. Karen Gomez, living on the 13th floor, said a siren woke her up, and she felt terror. Norma Ortega, on the 10th floor, also got a terrible fright. President Sheinbaum, however, stayed calm during the shaking. She looked at the reporters and simply stated, "The ground is shaking." She then calmly asked everyone to leave the room. Her steady reaction was a clear contrast to the panic felt by many ordinary citizens. After the ground stopped shaking, a new kind of trouble began. The emergency sirens stopped, but questions quickly arose. Over 500 smaller aftershocks followed, keeping people worried. Initial reports of damage and hurt people started to trickle in. Officials and social media shared information. A hospital in Chilpancingo had major damage. Landslides cut off roads near Acapulco. In Mexico City, some ceiling panels fell in a hospital parking lot. But the full story was not yet known. The urgent question remained: how bad was the earthquake really? The earthquake left its mark on people and buildings. 2 people tragically lost their lives. Near the center of the earthquake, in a small town in Guerrero State, a 50-year-old woman died. Her home collapsed because of the strong shaking. In Mexico City, a 60-year-old man also died. He fell from his second-floor apartment while trying to get to safety during the evacuation. These 2 deaths showed the earthquake's immediate human cost. More than 10 other people in Mexico City also suffered injuries during the event. Beyond these sad losses, the quake caused damage in several places. In Chilpancingo, which is the capital of Guerrero State, a hospital was badly damaged. This meant many patients had to leave the building quickly. The roads around Acapulco and in other parts of Guerrero State also had problems. Landslides blocked these roads,
making it hard for help to reach people. Some towns on the Pacific coast could not talk to anyone because phone lines stopped working. Even in Mexico City, there was some structural damage. For example, ceiling panels fell in a parking lot at Hospital La Raza, though luckily no one was hurt there. Across the capital, many residents and even tourists rushed out into the streets as buildings moved and swayed. They felt fear and worry as the ground shook. One person who felt the earthquake strongly was Dr. Jose Raimundo Diaz Taboada. He is a doctor and a human rights worker.
He lives near Acapulco, close to where the earthquake started. He heard a strong rumbling noise, and then all the dogs in his neighborhood began barking loudly. At that same moment, the earthquake alarm went off on his phone, and then the strong shaking began. After the shaking, Dr. Taboada had a big worry. He tried to call his friends who live in a remote area along the Costa Chica, a part of the coast southeast of Acapulco, but he could not reach them because their communications were cut. This left a question in his mind. Were his friends safe in that far-off place? The U.S. Geological Survey, a government science group, gave a yellow alert. This meant that some deaths from the shaking were possible. However, the report also said that the damage was mostly in a small, localized area. They expected the total economic losses to be less than $10 million. This was a low amount for such a powerful earthquake. It made many people wonder. Mexico is a country where earthquakes happen often, and many parts are very vulnerable. Why was the number of deaths and major injuries not much higher this time? The warning system. Mexico has a special system to warn people about earthquakes. It is called SASMEX. This system was the hero on January 2, saving many lives. When the quake began, SASMEX quickly sent a warning. It alerted Mexico City about 40 seconds before the strongest shaking arrived.
This gave millions of people vital time to move to safety, away from buildings. SASMEX uses many sensors. These devices are spread across southern Mexico, along the coast. When the sensors feel the first small tremors, the system quickly calculates the earthquake's strength. If it is strong enough, an alert is sent. This alert travels very fast, much faster than earthquake waves. So people in cities far from the quake's start, like Mexico City, get a warning before the big shakes. The warnings reach people in many ways. Loud sirens blare in the streets. Radio and television stations broadcast the alert. Special phone applications also send messages. Many public schools and homes in Mexico City have dedicated receivers for these important warnings. On January 2, SASMEX worked perfectly. Officials said it helped stop panic and reduced possible injuries. This was different from the earthquake on September 19, 2017. Then, the warning came too late for many, often after the shaking had already begun. So SASMEX did its job well, helping to keep the number of deaths and injuries low. But this system can only warn you. It cannot change the ground itself. Mexico City is built on very soft soil. This ground can make earthquakes much worse. No warning system can fully protect the city from its own treacherous soil. What makes Mexico City's ground so dangerous? Is it truly a death trap? A dangerous place.
Mexico is a country that faces many earthquakes. It sits on top of 5 large pieces of the Earth's crust called tectonic plates.
One of these, the Cocos Plate, is constantly pushing underneath the North American Plate. This process is called subduction. This deep movement creates a lot of stress and energy, which then causes many earthquakes in the region. But Mexico City has a special and serious problem. The city was built long ago on what was once a big lake. Over many centuries, the lake was drained. Now, much of Mexico City stands on this old lake bed. The ground here is not hard rock. It is very soft, like clay or wet mud. This type of soil is very dangerous during an earthquake. When an earthquake happens, the seismic waves travel through the ground. When these waves reach Mexico City's soft lakebed soil, something strange happens. The soft soil acts like gelatin or jelly. It makes the earthquake shaking much stronger. It also makes the shaking last for a much longer time. This effect means that buildings in Mexico City shake harder and for longer than buildings in other places built on solid rock, even if those places are closer to the earthquake. There is also a place near the coast called the Guerrero Seismic Gap. This area is a part of the Earth's tectonic plates that has not had a very large earthquake for over 100 years. The last big one was in 1911. Scientists know that a lot of energy is building up in this gap.
They are worried about what will happen next. Some scientists think that this stored energy will cause a huge, catastrophic earthquake soon. This could be much bigger than the last one. However, other scientists have a different idea. They believe that the Guerrero Gap might release its energy in a different way. They talk about slow slip events. These are very slow, quiet movements of the Earth that we cannot feel. These slow events could release the energy harmlessly without causing a big, dangerous earthquake. But this is not certain. This disagreement among scientists creates a lot of worry and tension. Nobody knows for sure what the future holds for this dangerous area. This terrible problem with the soft lakebed soil making earthquakes worse was the main reason for huge damage in a past disaster. It explains why a terrible earthquake caused so much destruction in Mexico City many years ago. 6. Old earthquakes. Mexico has learned many hard lessons from past earthquakes. These events changed how the country gets ready for future shocks. 2 earthquakes especially stand out, showing its path to better preparedness. The first big one was on September 19, 1985. It was a very strong earthquake, magnitude 8.1. The ground shook far from Mexico City, near the coast of Michoacan. But the shaking in Mexico City was terrible. About 10,000 people died, and many buildings fell down.
This disaster showed that the government was not ready. There were no good plans to help people. This led Mexico to create its Seismic Alert System, SASMEX, and to make building rules much stricter. Then, exactly 32 years later, on September 19, 2017, another strong earthquake hit. This one was magnitude 7.1. It happened during a citywide drill to remember the 1985 quake, a cruel twist of fate. This time, the earthquake was closer to Mexico City, about 120 kilometers away. Because it was so close, the warning system did not give much time for people to prepare. About 370 people died, most of them in the capital. This earthquake showed that even with SASMEX, new problems could appear, and some buildings were vulnerable to closer quakes. Mexico needed to keep learning. These two big earthquakes are like ghosts in Mexico's history. They remind people of the great power of nature and how quickly life can change. They have taught Mexico that it must always be ready. People now regularly practice what to do when the ground shakes. They know that earthquakes are a part of life in this region. Now, Mexico has a new leader, President Claudia Sheinbaum. She is a world-class scientist with a PhD in energy engineering. She has a deep understanding of how the world works, including the science behind earthquakes.
Her way of thinking is based on facts and data, not just old ways. How will her scientific mind change how Mexico prepares for the inevitable future shocks? This is an important question for the country's safety and future. 7. A leader's test. President Claudia Sheinbaum is a unique leader for Mexico. Many people know her as La Doctora because she has a PhD and a strong science background. She was born in Mexico City in 1962. Her parents were both professors, so she grew up in a very academic family. She studied physics at university. Later, she earned her master's and PhD in energy engineering from a well-known university. She also worked as a researcher. In 2007, she even contributed to the work of a group called the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC. This group later won the Nobel Peace Prize for their work on climate change. Her deep scientific knowledge and experience truly shape her leadership style as president. During the recent 6.5 magnitude earthquake, President Sheinbaum showed her calm and analytical nature. This moment was seen live on national television. When the ground began to shake beneath her, she did not panic. Instead, she calmly noted, "The ground is shaking." She then quickly asked everyone, including journalists, to leave the room in an orderly way. This was not just her personal calm. It was also a professional reaction, showing how her scientific training helps her during emergencies.
She used facts and clear thinking to manage a difficult and sudden event. As mayor of Mexico City from 2018 to 2023, she faced another big challenge, the COVID-19 pandemic. During that time, the federal government under President Andrés Manuel López Obrador sometimes played down the need for extensive testing. However, Mayor Sheinbaum made sure Mexico City greatly increased its testing capacity. She always followed scientific advice and evidence to make decisions for the city. This showed her clear and distinct leadership style, always using data and expert knowledge to protect people. The 6.5 magnitude earthquake in January was a test for President Sheinbaum and Mexico's emergency systems. They passed this test well. The seismic alert system worked as planned, giving people precious seconds to react. But the science President Sheinbaum understands so well also carries a very serious warning. Seismologists have studied the Guerrero seismic gap. They warn that this area could produce a much larger earthquake in the future. Such an event might create ground movement in Mexico City that is 3 times stronger than the terrible 1985 disaster. This raises a frightening question for everyone. Is anyone truly prepared for something that powerful? 2 years later, on January 2nd, the earthquake was a test for elite leadership and Mexico's emergency systems. They passed this test well. The seismic alert system worked as planned, giving people precious seconds to react. But the science President Sheinbaum understands so well also carries a very serious warning. Seismologists have studied the Guerrero seismic gap. They warn that this area could produce a much larger earthquake in the future. Such an event might create ground movement in Mexico City that is 3 times stronger than the terrible 1985 disaster. This raises a frightening question for everyone. Is anyone truly prepared for something that powerful?
8. The next big one. The 6.5 magnitude earthquake on January 2nd gave Mexico an important lesson. It was like a big practice drill for the country.
The nation learned valuable things about how ready it is for natural disasters. The Seismic Alert System, SASMEX, worked very well. It gave about 40 seconds of warning before the strongest shaking reached Mexico City. This crucial time allowed millions to find safety, evacuating schools and offices. President Sheinbaum herself stayed calm during her press conference, showing a good example. Her government worked together well, showing a strong and coordinated response. However, the event also showed problems that still exist. For example, a woman died when her old house collapsed near the earthquake center. Many poor families still live in homes built without strong earthquake safety rules. These buildings are very dangerous when the ground moves strongly. Improving these unsafe houses is a major challenge for the country. The biggest worry is still the Guerrero seismic gap. This area has not had a very large earthquake since 1911. Scientists know a lot of energy is building up there. They cannot say if this energy will release slowly over time or in one massive earthquake. This uncertainty keeps many people worried about the next big one. Under President Sheinbaum's scientific leadership, Mexico is better prepared for earthquakes than ever before. Her calm, data-driven approach helps to improve readiness. However, the true test is still to come. A very powerful earthquake, perhaps much stronger than anything seen before, will hit Mexico one day.
It is not a matter of if it will happen, but when. Mexico must keep preparing for that moment. If an earthquake warning sounded where you live right now, would you know exactly what to do?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.